Faith never knows where it is being led, but it loves and knows the one who is leading.
Oswald Chambers once said that, and those words hold a quiet power for anyone who wakes up already tired of trying to control everything. When faith stops needing all the details and starts resting in who is holding the map, something deep inside begins to breathe again. The shoulders may still carry responsibility. The calendar may still be full, but the soul no longer has to act like it is running the universe. Maybe this morning finds you with your mind already racing ahead. Before your feet even touch the floor, you might be thinking about deadlines, family pressures, bills, conversations that you are dreading, expectations that you are afraid of disappointing. The world keeps saying, take control, make it happen, do not fall behind. And a part of your heart tries to obey even when it is exhausted. In the middle of that noise, the gentle invitation of God sounds almost too simple. Let me lead. Not give up caring, but stop carrying what was never meant to rest on your shoulders alone. Allow God to lead you does not mean ignoring reality. It means facing reality with someone stronger than you at the front of the line. It means remembering that your life is not an accident. Your days are not random, and the path in front of you is not a maze that you have to solve by yourself. When you let God take his rightful place as the shepherd of your journey, your part becomes clear again. You can show up, work hard, love well, speak truth, and make wise choices while trusting that the results belong to him. That is what this message is about. Together, we are going to walk through what it truly looks like to stop pretending we are in full control and start learning how to be led. In the first part, we will talk honestly about the illusion of control and why surrender is not weakness, but the starting point of real change. Then we will move into the practical, ordinary decisions of daily life and learn how to walk with God in them. Finally, we will look at the way he reshapes our dreams, our character, and our direction when we dare to put the pen of our story back into his hands. For now, let us begin where every changed life begins, with the simple, courageous moment when a tired heart finally says, Lord, I cannot keep doing this alone. Please, lead me. Let go of the illusion of control. Surrender is where change begins. In almost every season of life, the urge to control is strong. From the time we are young, we are taught to plan, to push, to perform, to make a way. Taking responsibility is good and biblical, but somewhere along the journey, a subtle and heavy lie slips in. The lie says that if anything good is going to happen, it is entirely on your shoulders. The lie insists that if you are not holding every detail together with both hands, everything will fall apart. Under that pressure, even blessings begin to feel like burdens, and even small tasks can feel like they weigh a ton. Think about the way this shows up in work. You may feel that you cannot rest because if you slow down, opportunities will disappear. So you answer every message immediately, say yes to every demand, and replay every meeting in your mind, searching for the one sentence that could cost you everything. In relationships, the same pattern appears. You may feel like you need to manage how everyone thinks and feels, always smoothing things over, always reading between the lines, afraid that if you are not careful enough, someone will walk away. When you look toward the future, that need to control can become almost suffocating. You may try to plan every detail of career, finance, and family, and when life does not follow the script, frustration and fear rise up like a wave. In those moments, the soul quietly begins to burn out. The heart was never created to act as project manager of the universe. The mind was never meant to carry the weight of knowing and predicting every outcome. The more we cling, the more anxious we become. Because deep down, we know the truth. We are not actually in control, no matter how tightly we hold on. And that is where the invitation of God becomes not only comforting, but necessary. The Bible paints a very different picture of what it means to live well. In Isaiah, we are reminded that the Lord Himself desires to guide and sustain those who belong to Him. Isaiah 58 verse 11 says, "The Lord will guide you always. He will satisfy your needs in a sun-scorched land and will strengthen your frame. You will be like a well-watered garden, like a spring whose waters never fail." That is not the picture of a person crushed under the weight of control. That is the picture of someone rooted, nourished, and led. Surrender is often misunderstood. Some people hear the word and imagine passivity, laziness, or giving up on goals. That is not biblical surrender. Biblical surrender is what happens when a child places their small hand into a strong, loving hand and keeps walking forward. The child is not lying down or refusing to move. The child is still moving, but no longer alone. Dallas Willard once wrote about the will of God in a way that is both freeing and challenging. He explained that generally, we are in God's will whenever we are living the kind of life He wants for us, and that this actually leaves a lot of room for initiative on our part, because our personal initiative is central to His will. In other words, God does not call you to be a robot. He calls you to be a willing, responsive partner, taking steps, making choices, but always under His loving leadership. When you begin to see surrender that way, everything starts to shift. Giving control back to God does not erase your personality or your dreams. It releases your heart from the impossible job of being its own savior. Max Lucado once reminded readers of this when he said that God leads us and that God will do the right thing at the right time, and that simple truth, received deeply, makes a world of difference. It means you do not have to obsess over every door or panic over every delay. You can be diligent without being desperate. You can be responsible without being ruled by fear. So how does this look in everyday life? It often begins in very small, hidden moments that nobody else notices. A new kind of morning can start with a quiet whisper instead of an immediate scroll. Before reaching for the phone, you pause and turn your attention toward God. Maybe with words as simple as, "Lord, please lead me today." That sentence is not magic, but it is a posture. You are choosing to acknowledge before the day even unfolds that you are not the main director of the story. You have a role, but you are not the author. Later, when something goes off script, the old reflex is to spiral. The train is late, the client cancels, a comment stings, an unexpected bill arrives, the familiar thoughts begin, "Here we go again. Nothing ever works. I have to fix this right now." In those very moments, surrender can show up as a new reflex. Instead of letting panic write the next chapter, you take a mental step back and remember God is still leading even here. You ask for wisdom instead of assuming you already have the right answer. You choose to respond instead of just react. The circumstances may remain challenging, but the atmosphere inside your heart begins to calm. Another part of letting go of the illusion of control is learning to accept that closed doors are not always failures. Sometimes they are protection. Sometimes they are redirection. Often they are preparation. The job that did not work out, the plan that fell through, the opportunity that seemed perfect but slipped away, can all become places where God quietly guards you from what you cannot yet see. This is hard to embrace in the moment, especially when expectations were high. Yet again and again, those who walk with God discover that His no often clears space for a better yes that they could not have imagined. This kind of trust does not grow in an instant. It grows through practice. Each time you resist the urge to micromanage and instead pray for guidance, the grip of anxiety weakens a little. Each time you choose honesty over manipulation, even when manipulation might get quicker results, you are practicing surrender. Each time you set down the need to control what people think of you and focus instead on being faithful to what God is asking you to do, your heart becomes a little lighter. Of course, surrender will always feel risky to the part of you that has survived by controlling. That part of you will raise objections. What if God does not come through? What if His plan hurts? What if I miss my chance? Those questions are honest, and God is not offended by them. He invites you to bring them, with all their raw edges, into His presence. At the same time, He gently turns your eyes back to His character. This is not a random force asking for your trust. This is the God who has guided His people through wilderness and storm, the shepherd who knows every valley, the Father who sees the end from the beginning. Letting go of the illusion of control also means telling yourself the truth about your limits. You have a real body that needs rest, not an engine that can run nonstop. You have a human mind that cannot hold every detail of the future. You have a heart that cannot stay healthy if it is constantly bracing for disaster. Admitting those limits is not failure, it is maturity. It is the moment when you stop pretending to be self-sufficient and start living as a dependent, loved child of God. Dependence in this sense is not degrading, it is dignifying, because it places you back in the reality of who you were created to be. Imagine walking through your day with this mindset. You still set goals. You still plan your schedule. You still pay attention to what needs to be done. But underneath all of that, you carry a quiet, steady awareness. God is leading, I am following. When something succeeds, gratitude rises instead of pride because you know you were not alone. When something fails, hope survives instead of despair because the story does not end with your mistake. Control stops being your idol and becomes what it was meant to be, a simple tool you use in partnership with the one who truly reigns. As we move forward in this message, hold this thought close. The most powerful changes in life rarely begin with louder effort. They begin with deeper surrender. The moment you dare to say from a sincere place, Lord, I hand this over. Show me how to walk behind you instead of running ahead. You step onto a different kind of path. On that path, you still work, still choose, still feel, still struggle. But you do all of it with a leader who never loses his way. And that, more than any strategy or self-help plan, is what truly changes everything. So as this first part closes, let your heart whisper a quiet yes, and get ready to learn how His leadership shapes every choice that comes next. Step by step, walking with God in everyday choices. Surrender begins in the heart, but it does not stay invisible. When you start to let go of the illusion of control, the next step is to learn how to actually walk with God through the ordinary hours of an ordinary day. This is where faith stops being just a beautiful concept and becomes something that shapes your tone of voice, your reactions, your schedule, and the way you treat people. Many believers imagine that God only speaks in the big crossroads moments, but the truth is that your shepherd wants to walk with you through the hallway, the traffic jam, the inbox, the kitchen, and the late night thoughts. The question is not whether He wants to lead. The question is whether you will invite Him into the small decisions, not just the dramatic ones. In the Psalms, there is a simple and honest prayer that sounds a lot like someone waking up and handing the day to God. In Psalm 25:4-5, we hear this cry, "Show me your ways, Lord. Teach me your paths. Guide me in your truth and teach me, for you are God, my Savior, and my hope is in you all day long." That is not a cold religious formula. That is the voice of a person who knows they have choices to make, pressures to face, paths to walk, and yet they do not want to walk them alone. When you let these words become your own, you begin to understand that walking with God in daily life is not about being perfect. It is about being willing to be guided. Picture the start of a regular weekday. The alarm sounds and the mind immediately wants to rush ahead to everything that could go wrong. Before your thoughts run too far, you could quietly echo that psalm in your own language. You might say, "Lord, today there will be things I expect and things I do not expect. Please show me your way in each one. Please teach me how to respond, not just react." That kind of beginning does not magically erase stress, but it shifts the center of gravity. The day no longer belongs to the loudest demand or the heaviest worry. It belongs to the one you just invited to lead. As the morning unfolds, walking with God often looks like very small pauses that nobody else can see. You are about to answer a message that stirs your emotions, and instead of firing back your first reaction, you breathe for a moment and turn your thoughts upward. You admit what you are feeling, and then you ask for help to answer in a way that reflects the character of Christ. Maybe there is a meeting ahead that fills you with dread. Before you walk into the room or join the call, you quietly whisper, "Lord, stand with me in this. Guard my heart from defensiveness. Help me to listen, to speak clearly, and to stay kind." These are not long, polished prayers. They are short, real, and frequent prayers woven into the fabric of ordinary life. Jesus spoke very tenderly about this kind of moment-by-moment relationship. In John 10:27, he said, "My sheep listen to my voice. I know them, and they follow me." That sentence describes an ongoing daily rhythm, listening, being known, following. Sheep do not just listen to the shepherd once at the beginning of the journey and then ignore him for the rest of the path. They keep their ears tuned to his voice because they know that danger, distraction, and confusion are always nearby. In the same way, walking with God in everyday decisions means you keep turning the inner ear of your heart toward him even while you send emails, drive, study, cook, clean, or sit in silence. Many people wait for a big dramatic sign before they move, but most of the time, the guidance of God feels like a steady, gentle nudge rather than a flash of lightning. You read scripture, and a line grips you. You sense that a certain choice would bring peace while another would stir unnecessary chaos. You remember a piece of wise counsel at just the right moment. You notice a restlessness in your spirit when you are about to step into something that does not align with what you know of God's character. These are often the ways he leads, especially when your heart has already said, "Lord, I want your will more than my comfort." Charles F. Stanley once said, "Trusting God means looking beyond what we can see to what God sees." That is the essence of walking him in daily choices. Your eyes see the email that feels urgent, the comment that feels offensive, the door that looks closed, the bill that looks impossible. His eyes see the full story that you cannot yet see. When you trust his vision more than your own, you gain the courage to choose obedience even when it does not look like the easiest path. You decide to forgive instead of hold a grudge because you trust that his way of grace leads to freedom. You decide to tell the truth, even if it costs you, because you trust that His way of integrity leads to life. You decide to wait instead of rushing into something halfway because you trust that His timing is wiser than your timeline. One of the most practical ways to let God lead in daily life is to bring Him into your planning instead of handing Him a finished plan and asking for a stamp of approval. When you sit with your calendar or your to-do list, you can talk with Him about it. You can say, "Lord, this is what I think needs to be done today. Please rearrange it if you need to. Highlight what matters most to you. Give me courage to cancel or postpone what is not from you, even if my pride likes how busy it looks." That kind of conversation opens the door for God to gently challenge the way you usually prioritize. You may sense that some tasks are driven more by fear of people's opinions than by real importance. You may realize that some commitments are draining your spiritual and emotional strength without bearing good fruit. Walking with God means letting Him prune, not just bless. Another area where everyday guidance matters is the way you handle interruption. So often, an interruption feels like an enemy to your plan. Yet sometimes the Spirit of God hides opportunity inside the very things you did not schedule. A sudden phone call from a friend, a child needing attention, a stranger who crosses your path, a conversation that runs longer than expected, can all become moments of quiet obedience. When you walk with God, you start learning to ask, "Lord, is this interruption something you want me to receive or something I need to gently say no to?" You will not always get it perfectly right, but even the act of asking keeps your heart soft and aware. The same is true for your inner life, not just your schedule. When a wave of anxiety crashes over you, instead of letting it pull you wherever it wants, you can pause and acknowledge it in front of God. You can say, "Lord, this situation really scares me. Show me what is mine to do and what I need to hand over to you." Sometimes He will prompt you to take a practical step that you have been avoiding. Sometimes He will invite you simply to rest in His promises and wait. Either way, the important part is that you are not handling the emotion alone, trying to manage it by sheer willpower. You are bringing it under His leadership. Walking with God in everyday choices also changes how you use your words. When you let Him lead your speech, you become slower to respond out of irritation and quicker to respond out of love. Before you answer a harsh comment, you may remember that His voice toward you is patient and kind, and that memory softens your reply. Before you join in gossip, you may feel a gentle check inside and decide to change the subject. Before you make a promise, you may sense Him nudging you to be honest about your limits. Over time, these small, unseen decisions shape your character more than any single big moment on a stage ever could. Some people feel discouraged because they think, "I do not hear God the way others do." If that is on your heart, be encouraged by this. The goal is not to chase experiences, but to cultivate relationship. Jesus already promised that His sheep hear His voice. That means He knows how to reach you. He can speak through Scripture, through the quiet nudge of conscience, through wise friends, through circumstances, through a deep inner peace that accompanies certain choices. Your part is to stay open, stay honest, and keep bringing your decisions before Him. As you keep doing that, patterns will emerge. You will begin to recognize what His leading feels like in your life, in your personality, in your story. Another key part of everyday walking is obedience in the small things. Many believers say they want God's guidance for big life directions, but when He nudges them in something simple, they ignore it. Perhaps you sense that you should apologize to someone, let go of a hidden habit, change the way you talk to a family member, or be more careful with what you watch and listen to. Those may not feel as glamorous as a dramatic calling, yet they are often the training ground where trust is built. When you honor God in those quiet places, your heart becomes more ready to hear Him in larger matters. All of this might sound like a lot to carry, but remember, the core of walking with God is not striving, it is staying close. You will not get every decision right. No one does. The good news is that your shepherd is patient. When you miss a turn, He does not abandon you on the side of the road. He walks back to meet you where you are. He corrects, restores, and leads forward again. The more you experience that grace, the more willing you become to involve Him in every choice. Not out of fear of punishment, but out of confidence in His love. So as you step from this part of the message into the next, let this sink in. Allowing God to lead is not only for crisis moments or major crossroads. It is for the email you are about to send, the tone you will use at the dinner table, the way you will handle that piece of news, the thoughts you will entertain when the house grows quiet. When your heart learns to say many times a day, "Lord, what would it look like to follow you here?" your life slowly bends away from chaos and toward peace. Each simple decision becomes a step on a sacred path, and that path, walked day by day, will carry you far deeper into His purpose than any plan you could have controlled on your own. And as this daily walk continues, something subtle but powerful begins to happen inside you. Decisions that once felt lonely now feel shared. Choices that once were driven only by fear or pressure begin to be shaped by love, wisdom, and a long view of eternity. You notice that even when circumstances stay hard, your reactions are not the same as before. Hope rises more quickly. Bitterness loosens. Deep down, you start to realize that the God who leads your steps is also reshaping your desires, and that discovery prepares your heart for the next part of this journey. When God leads, He doesn't just change your path, He changes you. When people hear the call to let God lead, many think first about direction. They want to know which job to take, which city to move to, whether to stay or go, when to start, when to stop. Those questions matter, but God is never only interested in coordinates on a map. His eyes are always on something deeper. He is shaping the kind of person you are becoming as you walk. The path you take is important, yet who you are on that path is even more important. If all your external circumstances lined up exactly how you dreamed, but your heart stayed fearful, proud, resentful, or empty, it would still not be the life God designed you for. That is why His leadership always reaches beyond the surface of decisions and presses gently but firmly into your motives, desires, and character. At the beginning of faith, many people treat God like a divine consultant. They bring a detailed plan, ask Him to bless it, and feel disappointed if He does not make everything unfold according to schedule. Over time, as you walk with Him through both joy and disappointment, you begin to see a different pattern. You start noticing that some doors He closes later turn out to be mercies in disguise. You realize that seasons which felt like delays were actually training grounds for strength, humility, and endurance. Slowly, your question shifts from, "Lord, please do exactly what I want," to, "Lord, please do whatever will make me most like you." That shift is the beginning of a deeper transformation. Philippians 1:6 declares, "Being confident of this, that He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus." That verse is not just a pretty line to print on a card. It is a description of the way God leads your entire life. He is the one who began the good work in you, and he is committed to finishing it. He does not abandon projects halfway. He does not lose interest or run out of ideas. Even when you feel stuck, he is not stuck. Even when you feel like you have taken 3 steps backward, he is still holding the thread of your story, weaving it into something meaningful. Letting God lead means trusting that his priority is not just to get you somewhere fast, but to grow you into someone who reflects his heart. When you surrender your dreams to God, you are not throwing them into a dark void. You are placing them into the hands of a loving Father who sees every angle you cannot see. That surrender may feel painful at first. Perhaps you have carried certain ambitions for years. Maybe there is a version of your future that you replay in your mind, a picture where everything finally makes sense and aches finally disappear. Handing that over to God can feel like tearing up a script you worked hard to write. Yet this is where faith steps in. Faith says the author knows the story better than the character does. If he edits my script, it is not to harm me, but to tell a better story than I was writing. Elizabeth Elliot once said, "The will of God is never exactly what you expect it to be. It may seem to be much worse, but in the end, it's going to be a lot better and a lot bigger." That honest insight speaks to the tension nearly every believer feels at some point. The will of God can be surprising. It can move you through valleys you never planned to cross. It can lead you into assignments that stretch you and sometimes scare you. Yet those very places often become where your faith grows roots. You begin to notice that in the situations you would have avoided, you met parts of God's character you might never have known otherwise. In the seasons that felt smaller than your dreams, your soul often grew larger than your ego. Over time, you look back and realize that better and bigger did not always mean easier or flashier, but it did mean richer, deeper, and more aligned with eternal value. Letting God shape your dreams does not mean you stop desiring. Desire is part of how He made you. The key is learning to bring your desires into conversation with Him instead of letting them run wild on their own. When a new opportunity excites you, you can celebrate that excitement with God and then ask, "Lord, what do you see here? Does this align with what you have been doing in my life? Will this draw me closer to you and help me serve others well? Or will it quietly pull me away from what really matters?" Those questions do not always produce instant clarity, but they position your heart to be guided. They keep you from chasing every shining thing and losing yourself in the process. If you pay attention, you may notice that God often nudges the direction of your dreams in small increments rather than in one dramatic announcement. A desire to succeed begins to carry with it a deeper longing to do your work with integrity. A hope for financial stability gradually joins hands with a desire to be generous. Plans for your own comfort slowly expand into concern for the people around you. These quiet shifts are not random. They are signs that the Spirit of God is renewing your mind, teaching you to love what He loves and value what He values. As that happens, you find that saying yes to His leading feels less like losing yourself and more like finally recognizing who you were made to be. In many ways, character is where the leadership of God becomes most visible. When He leads, He does not only arrange circumstances, He works on the inside. He deals with impatience by walking you through situations where you have to wait. He deals with pride by allowing you to face moments where you cannot rely on your own strength or cleverness. He deals with fear by standing with you in places that feel bigger than you are, showing you again and again that His presence is steady. None of this is punishment. It is spiritual training done by a wise and gentle teacher who wants you to become strong in the ways that truly matter. Psalm 73:24 describes this kind of journey when it says, "You guide me with your counsel, and afterward you will take me into glory." That one sentence spans an entire lifetime. "You guide me with your counsel" speaks of the daily, patient leading of God through choices, trials, joys, and missteps. "Afterward, you will take me into glory" points to the destination beyond all destinations, where you will finally see how all the pieces fit. Right now, you live in the first half of that verse, walking by faith, sometimes with tears, sometimes with laughter, always needing His counsel. One day you will step into the second half, looking back with perfect understanding and gratitude. Knowing that both halves are true gives courage in the middle. As God shapes your character, you might notice that some of the goals that used to define success begin to lose their grip. Perhaps you once measured a good life by comparison, by having as much as or more than others in your field. Under the leadership of Christ, that measuring stick starts to feel hollow. A new metric rises instead: faithfulness. You begin to ask less, "How impressive does this look?" and more, "How obedient is this to what God asked me to do?" That shift brings a surprising freedom. You are no longer chasing an image, you are responding to a call. At the same time, submitting your direction to God can mean making choices that look strange to people who do not share your perspective. You might turn down an opportunity that promises quick advancement because you sense it would compromise your integrity or pull you away from your family. You might stay in a hidden place of service that nobody praises because you sense that God is using that season to deepen your roots. You might start something new even when the outcome is uncertain because His peace accompanies that step. These decisions can feel costly in the moment, but they are the kind of costs that lead to a clear conscience and a deeper joy. As you continue to let God lead, you begin to notice something else. The journey is not just about you. The transformation He is working in your life is meant to spill over into the lives of others. The patience He forms in you becomes a shelter for people who are struggling. The wisdom He gives you through your own mistakes becomes guidance for others who are walking a similar road. The comfort He pours into you during your tears becomes the comfort you later pour out. When God shapes your dreams, He often enlarges them beyond your personal success and ties them to His bigger story of healing, justice, mercy, and redemption in the world. Of course, there will be days when this process feels slow. You might wonder if you are really changing at all. You might see the same weaknesses resurfacing and feel discouraged. In those moments, it helps to remember that growth is often more like the steady thickening of a tree trunk than like the sudden pop of a firework. It is quiet, consistent, and sometimes hard to notice from one day to the next, but over years it becomes undeniable. God is patient. He is not surprised by your stumbles. He is not disappointed each time you need to relearn a lesson. He simply calls you to get up, to look at Him again, and to keep walking. Letting God lead your direction also means trusting Him when He says, wait. Waiting can feel like the heaviest assignment of all. It is tempting to think that nothing is happening while you wait, but often waiting is where God does some of His most profound work. In the waiting, motives are purified. In the waiting, idols are exposed. In the waiting, dependence deepens. When the answer finally comes, or the next step finally opens, you are different than you were at the beginning. The road has not only changed, the traveler has been transformed. At times, His leadership will take you through sorrow and loss. Following Christ does not immunize you against pain. Yet even there, His purpose is at work. In seasons of grief, he teaches compassion. In seasons where prayers are not answered the way you hoped, he reveals that his presence is the greatest gift of all. In seasons of weakness, he shows that his power is made perfect when you reach the end of your own. None of this is easy to embrace while you are in it, but little by little, you start to see how suffering held in the hands of God can soften your heart instead of harden it. It can make you kinder, more understanding, more anchored in hope that is not tied to circumstances. The beautiful truth is that when God leads, your life becomes a kind of living testimony even before you say a word. People around you notice the quiet steadiness that remains in stormy seasons. They notice that your decisions are not only driven by profit or applause, but by something deeper. They notice that you are not destroyed by setbacks in the same way you used to be. They may not understand all the reasons, but they can sense that someone stronger than you is holding you up. That silent witness often speaks louder than any speech. So how do you respond to this kind of leadership in a practical way? One simple rhythm is to regularly bring your plans, desires, and disappointments before God and invite His correction. You might sit with a journal and write out what you are aiming for, what you are afraid of, what you are excited about. Then you ask, Lord, where are you in this? What needs to change? What needs to stay? What needs to wait? As you stay honest in His presence, you give Him room to adjust your course. Sometimes the adjustment is small, like a shift in attitude. Sometimes it is significant, like a change in direction. In every case, His aim is not to restrict you, but to free you to walk in the good works He prepared for you. Another sign that God is shaping you from the inside out is the way your reactions begin to change in familiar pressure points. Situations that once triggered instant defensiveness start to meet a slower, more thoughtful response. Conversations that once slid quickly into criticism begin to carry more grace. Tasks that once felt beneath you become opportunities to serve with a quiet heart. You may still feel the pull of old patterns, but there is a new softness, a new willingness to pause and ask, Lord, how would you have me respond here? That question turns ordinary moments into sacred ground where the Spirit can rewrite old scripts and teach new ways of being. As this inner transformation continues, you might also find that your sense of calling grows clearer over time rather than arriving all at once. Many people wait for a single dramatic moment when God speaks their entire destiny in one sentence. More often, calling unfolds like a path lit one step at a time. The gifts God has placed in you, the needs of the world around you, and the quiet burdens He lays on your heart begin to overlap. Little by little, you see how your story and His purposes intersect. You realize that the work He is doing in you is connected to the work He wants to do through you. Sometimes letting God lead will mean returning to something you once walked away from in frustration, but this time with a different heart. Other times it will mean releasing something you have clung to out of fear, trusting that He has a better fit for your life and your season. In every case, the invitation is the same. Stay open, stay responsive, stay willing to be redirected. When your posture is surrender rather than stubbornness, even closed doors and sudden detours become part of a larger choreography of grace. It can help to remember that Jesus Himself modeled this way of living. He moved through His days with a deep awareness of the Father's will, sometimes stopping for one person in a crowd, sometimes withdrawing to pray, sometimes speaking hard truth, sometimes staying silent. His life was not driven by human pressure or by the expectations of the crowd. It was guided from a deeper place. As a follower of Christ, you are invited into that same rhythm of listening and responding, not out of cold duty, but out of love and trust. When you reach the end of a day lived under God's leadership, it can be powerful to look back with Him and notice where He was at work. You might replay conversations in your mind and realize where He gave you words that you did not plan. You might see how a change in schedule protected you from something you did not know was coming. You might notice where you resisted His leading and where you welcomed it. This gentle review is not about condemnation. It is about gratitude, learning, and renewed surrender so that tomorrow you can walk with Him even more closely than you did today. In all of this, remember that God's leadership is never cold, mechanical, or distant. He does not drag you along a path that has no room for your feelings or questions. He invites you to pour out your heart, to wrestle, to ask, to seek. He meets you in your confusion and your weakness. He rejoices over your smallest yes. And through every season, He holds fast to His promise to complete the good work He began in you, carrying it forward until the day you see Him face to face and finally understand just how carefully and lovingly He has been leading all along. This journey of being shaped and led will continue for as long as you live on this earth. You will never reach a point where you no longer need guidance, where you can say, "I have arrived, I can take it from here." That might sound humbling, yet it is also incredibly comforting. You never outgrow your shepherd. You never move beyond His care. Every new season is simply a new chapter in the same story of His faithfulness. And all along the way, Philippians 1:6 keeps whispering that the one who started this good work in you has no intention of leaving it half finished, no matter how unfinished you may feel today. As this message draws to a close, take a moment to picture your life as a road stretching ahead, some parts sunlit, some parts winding through shadow, all of it watched over by God. He is not just standing at the finish line, waiting to see whether you make it. He is walking beside you now, leading, correcting, strengthening, and reshaping your heart with every step. You do not have to understand every twist and turn. You do not have to predict every outcome. You only have to keep placing your hand in His and saying again and again, "Lord, lead me." And when He leads, one quiet, surrendered step at a time, everything about the journey begins to change because the one who walks with you is greater than anything that lies ahead.